Okay, time for more glass snapping adventures. I decided to change the name of the series to Glass Snapping Adventures, because I was looking around for other glass snappers, and apparently that's a thing. And I've gotten a lot of comments, a lot of reactions, a lot of various reactions, and varied reactions to the way I do the glass snapping. I think I've struck a nerve with some people. uh, it seems I've taken for granted that there's a whole bunch of people out there napping bottle bottoms, and there's certain trends, I think, developing in how you're supposed to, quote unquote, nap them. I don't know what they are. I don't know what the trends are, so I'm just doing it the way I do it. Right? I do watch some glass snappers on YouTube, but not very many. I mean, sometimes I'll watch. It's mostly pressure flaking and stuff. Anyway, what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to finish this out into a point. Now, I was thinking of doing one this size and this shape, right? This size and this shape, but it's really close. I mean, that's a squeaker. I can barely get one of this size. So I'm going to try anyway to get one that looks like this in this general shape, but it probably won't be as large. We'll see what happens, as like always. I have enough length on it, I just don't have enough width down here. And I'll finish this up. I'll finish this one out too, coming up soon. Alright. And I'm going to do a flake, or several flake napping videos with these thin flakes. Apparently I haven't done enough thin flake videos. And just for your information, thin flakes are extremely difficult to nap. Not because it's hard to get the shape, but it's hard to prevent them from snapping. Now, I use a domed pad. That's one of my secrets. Excuse me. Domed pads are what I use. And if you use a slotted pad and you have a very thin flake, you're going to snap it in half. Okay? Now, some of you will say, well, I've used slotted pads for years and nothing happens to me. Yeah, there's always the exception. I'm not denying there's always the exception. But if I'm telling someone something, it's usually in generalities. But you know, I try to mention the exceptions. There are some people that can work with slotted pads and make anything, absolutely anything, on a slotted pad, and they're fine. I cannot. So I'm not going to recommend something that I cannot do. I have to use a domed pad. If I don't use a domed pad, I get messed up. I break stuff. I waste material. Yada yada yada. Okay. So let's see. Let's get down to napping this. Now I am going to take off this original surface here. Now the danger of doing that is if you come back here and just focus on removing only that portion right now, like if I were to just focus on removing that, it's going to start to put the curve back in. So what I got to do is I got to come, I've got to start from the point and work all the way across every time I try to remove material from the center. I've actually got to remove I have to remove material from the entire surface so that I don't put the curve back in. So if I start removing only from this middle portion, the curve will start to reappear. So that's what I'm going to do. Series of flakes from tip to base, even though I only need the flakes in this one area. Okay, just in case. I know there would be questions on that, or if not questions, there'll be people confused about what I'm doing, and they won't ask the question. They may imply it later on in the comments or something, and I'll kind of catch on to what the question is. A lot of times when I answer questions in my article, they're not the actual questions. They are paraphrasing. I mean, I paraphrase questions, groups of questions together. Sometimes they're implied. Sometimes it's an actual verbatim question. But most of the time, I try to group as many questions as I can into one question so that I can answer a lot of things at once. Okay. Why am I not using natural materials for the glass? Yep, I'll do that too on my other channel. Eventually I'll do a lot of obsidian videos on my allergic hobbit channel. But for now, I haven't spent much time on that. There's no real reason why I'm not doing it. It's just that I don't have time. That's not a good reason. It's just an excuse, right? But I don't have time. Do I like using natural materials with glass and obsidian? I don't mind it, but I don't like it. What do I prefer? I prefer steel and copper when I'm knapping obsidian and glass. Because that's what I prefer on everything. Wrought iron is good too. For those of you just tuning in, I have several videos where I use wrought iron. Now, would this work better with a slotted pad? Yeah, it might. I do have a slotted pad around here somewhere. But anyway, there are other knappers that I've been watching. They're fog knappers, flake over grind. That's what fog stands for. One of them, I can't remember his name right now, but he puts his finger underneath and knaps this way somehow. He elevates the surface and knaps this way so there's a free and clear space underneath the preform, right? So you're not encountering step fracturing right where the preform touches the pad, like what I'm getting. But I don't really care about the step fractures there. I'm not making those pretty fog points. Although I do watch that type of video so I can see if I can incorporate any of the techniques or be able to answer questions if they come up. The hardest thing on glass is just getting the platforms right. It flakes really easy, right? But getting the platforms right so it doesn't crush and so you don't get step fracturing and all kinds of stuff. That's the hard part. And I should be using 2 gloves. Now I think I might be upsetting some people by the way I zigzag square edges haphazardly zigzag instead of methodically coming up with a technique where I can do aesthetic flaking from start to finish. And what I mean is, I could sit here and strategize what is the best way to get rid of this square edge without zigzagging and making a mess. In my style of napping, the initial stages are messy. It's expedient for me. But, you know, there's a methodical way to do it as well, right? Or there's maybe several ways. I just don't participate in that sort of napping. But if I were to make this methodical and aesthetic from start to finish, I'd probably pressure flake the whole thing and make every flake pretty if I wanted to do a video where everyone would like it from start to finish. But I don't really care if you like it from start to finish, or if it looks cerebral or efficient or proper or intellectual or skillful. I don't care if it looks like I'm fumbling all the way through until the very end, and then I show the point and it's like, ooh, that's a cool point, but the technique is terrible, right? I guess it's like watching a diver dive in the water. He ends up making a very little splash, but the maneuvers before the splash are terrible, right? I guess it'd be like watching that. The maneuvers before I do a finished point are not really pretty, right? A lot of times I don't know how to hold this stuff. A lot of times I'm swinging this around, getting everyone epileptic seizures by watching how I look at the front and back and sides and all that kind of stuff. But I'm actually more tame on video than I am napping regularly. I am more of a spaz when I'm napping by myself than I am on video. I tame it down for you guys, believe it or not. Okay, so if I were to do this aesthetically from start to finish, I would try to do it all with pressure. Try. You'll see I got a crush right there. Try to do it with no crushing. Do like 10 points before I actually do a video. That way I got it down to where I don't have to think about it, and everything looks very polished and very professional. But in many cases, I haven't napped until I actually make a video. So I'll be rusty. I won't really know what I'm doing until I get the hang of it. I'll do a bunch of damage control. I'll try to figure out what the best approach is, what tool I want to use, or maybe I just want to suffer with what I have and I don't care about picking the best tool. I'll just use what I have. Right now I'm seeing if I can actually pressure flake this in a very methodical way that would be useful for instructional purposes. And I think that I could zigzag it with pressure and make it very pretty from start to finish if I just go very methodically. Right, so I can just do that technique. To create the edge work, and just go work all the way down, all the way around with pressure, nothing but pressure, And then maybe indirect percussion to get rid of trouble spots, or if I need a big wide flake somewhere. Okay? I could nap that way. The reason why I don't, or the reason why I didn't in the past, is because that would give me terrible anxiety. The point of flint napping for me in the beginning was twofold. One, I just needed some arrowheads, some natural looking ones, some stone ones, and it was a way for me to feel like I was actually being productive, and it calmed me down from all the worries and all the stress that, I wasn't really doing anything meaningful. I didn't really have a hobby that I liked or that I could afford. Even though flint napping can get expensive, if you have materials, it can be, if you have easy access to materials, it can cost next to nothing. I figured, working with rocks is cheap. Anyway, it was not something that was overly challenging. It was supposed to be recreational, and it was for a long time. And didn't take long for people to start asking me to teach them how to do it. And every new napper goes through that stage too. It seems like as soon as they start napping, everyone wants to learn from you. And beginners really shouldn't be teaching too much, but they end up a lot of times teaching because they're the only napper in the area. I was the same way. I ended up teaching a lot of people when I first started, and I didn't think that was going to lead to that. I would take long breaks and people would get all disappointed. Why aren't you making videos anymore? Did you stop? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Did someone get you angry, or did you give up entirely? Or what is it? No, it's just I got tired of doing it. Or I had other priorities. But coming up in the future, I will be doing lots of flint napping, don't worry. But I will be doing it in a way that I enjoy doing it. I do not particularly enjoy the methodical methods. Now, it may be that it's best to use a methodical method for certain materials and certain point styles, like the Cody complex point styles. It's probably advantageous to learn a methodical method because it looks as if they had a very rigid type of a procedure where you didn't deviate from it. It was very well established. They have found, Cody complex points in various stages of production, and they all seem to be very similarly made, that sort of thing. Whereas other point styles are made in various ways with various different types of flaking and various materials, different sizes, different applications, different use wear. Same style apparently, but many different aspects and very different so-called technologies encapsulated or under the umbrella of that certain point type. So there's a wide range of techniques. Maybe I'll get into those. What you're looking at is my particular technique. There aren't very many objective, demonstrable, or provable Native American styles of napping. One notable exception is the Ishi style of napping with Ishi sticks. That's where we get that name from. Although there are other Ishi sticks in existence, but that we just didn't know how they were used. Ishi cleared that up, at least for his particular method, and we can assume that that method was going to be used in other tribes as well. I don't think he was an outlier, but you never know. Anyway, I did a series of flakes, right? I made sure that I didn't bring back the curve. There's still a little bit right here. See that little spot? That's a little bit of the original surface right there. But since I'm going to lose some width, that'll disappear without even thinking about it. Right now I'm just trying to regularize it, getting it down to a better looking preform, but I'm not paying too much attention. I probably could have done this a little bit better so I wouldn't end up with all that chatter in the middle here. I should have taken this edge back with and then ended up with a bevel that I could shoot off more powerful flakes to go across. So I'll probably do that right now. I should get rid of that chatter once I do that. The only chatter I see is you're just chattering too much on video. I don't usually get comments like that. I just I like making fun of myself sometimes. Sometimes I do get comments like that though. Maybe not in the comment section, but in other places. Okay, so that's not much of a bevel. Not in the technical sense of the bevels you see on some points, but it is, it is angled to where I can push off some very powerful flakes and hopefully drive them through that chatter. I call that chatter. That's just a made-up name for what that is. It's just a bunch of unreleased flakes and combination with step fractures and other things. Yeah, indirect percussion can blow that away too. But I'll try the pressure first. If I can't get good results with the pressure, I'll switch. I can usually get very clean or clear releases with indirect percussion because I don't have to have my finger there. I can, if I want, put my finger right underneath. Sometimes I'll have it so that my finger just barely is moved out of the way of each flake path. I say barely because sometimes the flake still hits my finger. And I don't want to have it bridged. I don't want to space the fingers too far apart because then it'll snap in the middle. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going to try to drive a very powerful pressure flake with the Ishi stick on a. Well, that's the flat side, but it's got kind of a depression there. Maybe I can use that to my advantage, get some of that surface to not make contact, you know. Okay, let's see. Ta-da! Ta-da! I shouldn't be silly on my videos because then I don't want to review them because they're cringy. Alright, so I cleared away a lot of that chatter just with those 2 flakes. Let's see if I can get rid of some thickness. Well, I gotta be a little more careful. And these are passive pressure. I build up pressure until it releases on its own. I don't force it. When I force it, I call that aggressive pressure. When I force the release, it's aggressive. When I let it release on its own, it's passive. So these have been passive flakes. Passive pressure technique. It doesn't always work. That slipped off the platform a couple times. But you get the idea. Alright, let's see. Bottle glass is very nice in that it naps easily and predictably. I have a step fracture right there. Right here I have a step fracture. I could pick at that and send off some flakes, right? Let's see, I can use a spatula tool to pick at that face of the step fracture. I could pick at that face of the step fracture. With the spatula tool. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going slow because I think there's some people that think I was going too fast in some of the other videos. Okay, you see how that worked? That was an aggressive flake. I just pushed off on it. I could have done a passive flake too. But I just loaded up real quick and pressed in on it so it won't slip too much. And now most of that step is missing, although there is some on the side. Come on. Most of that step fracture is gone, although there is some left on the sides, but I'm not worried about those. The shallow step fractures I'm not too worried about. So now it's just a matter of trying to get the shape of the finished product. I don't have to be all that much thinner, so I can go faster. Yep, I can go faster in the next segment. Okay.